Whispers of the forest. Growing up, I had heard tales about the Elmsworth Forest, an ancient expanse of trees and meadows that edged our small town. Legends whispered of spirits, age, old guardians of the forest that guided lost travelers and exacted justice on those who meant harm to its sanctity. When my university assigned me a project to study the flora and fauna of the Elmsworth Forest, I grabbed the opportunity. Packing my equipment, I set out to spend a month in the heart of the forest, camping at different spots and documenting my findings. The first few days were uneventful. The forest was tranquil, filled with the soft calls of birds and the rustling of leaves. However, one evening, as the sun painted the horizon in shades of crimson and gold, I stumbled upon a clearing with an old stone altar in its center. Surrounding it were ancient carvings depicting rituals, dances, and what appeared to be offerings. Curiosity piqued. I set up camp nearby and decided to explore further the next day. That night, however, was anything but peaceful. As darkness enveloped the forest, distant whispers floated on the wind, growing louder and more urgent. I tried dismissing it as my imagination, but the whispers seemed to beckon me, guiding me towards the stone altar. Drawn by an inexplicable force, I found myself standing before the altar, where the whispers grew louder, taking form as ghostly apparitions. They introduced themselves as the guardians of the forest, spirits of ancient druids who once lived and worshipped there. They had been waiting for someone, a link between their world and the present, to convey a crucial message. The forest was dying, they explained, threatened by a mining company planning to excavate the land for precious minerals. The druid spirits sought my help to stop this impending doom, to save the heart and soul of the forest. Fearing for the forest and understanding the gravity of my role, I set out at dawn, determined to gather evidence of the rich biodiversity of Elmsworth Forest and the cultural significance of the ancient druid site. Over the next week, my days were filled with meticulous documentation. I captured the vibrant life teeming within the forest. Rare birds, ancient trees, and delicate ecosystems, all of which could be obliterated by the mining operations. But more than just the biological aspect, I began to uncover the rich history of the druids. I discovered more carvings, artifacts, and hidden groves where ceremonies were once held. I realized that the forest wasn't just a repository of natural wonders, but also of historical and cultural treasures. The spirits continued to guide me, showing me secret springs said to possess healing properties and groves where sacred rituals were performed. Their stories painted a vivid picture of the bygone era, from mystical ceremonies to battles fought to protect the forest. However, my quest wasn't without challenges. One evening, as I was returning to my camp, I was ambushed by a group of men, likely hired by the mining company. They had been spying on my activities, hoping to deter me from my mission. A scuffle ensued, and just when things looked bleak, the forest came to my rescue. The whispers grew loud, almost deafening, and the trees seemed to come alive. Vines and branches moved on their own, warding off my attackers. The spirits of the druids materialized, their presence commanding enough to send the men fleeing in terror. Shaken but undeterred, I knew I had to act fast. The mining company would not give up easily, and I had to present my findings to the authorities and rally the town to save the forest. Returning to Elmsworth, I organized a town meeting, presenting my findings on the biodiversity of the forest and the historical importance of the druid sites. The townspeople were captivated by the tales of the guardian spirits and the rich heritage that lay within the forest's depths. A movement began, with petitions and peaceful protests urging the authorities to reconsider the mining permits. The local media caught wind of the story, amplifying our cause. Soon, Support poured in from neighboring towns, conservationists, and historians. The climax of our efforts was a grand event at the forest clearing. With the town gathered, I led a symbolic ceremony at the stone altar, echoing the rituals of the ancient Druids. As the ceremony reached its peak, the whispers of the forest rang out once more, this time not just for me, but for all present. The spirits of the Druids manifested, their ethereal presence a testament to the forest's magic. The mining company, facing mounting pressure and negative publicity, eventually withdrew their plans. Elmsworth Forest was declared a protected heritage site, preserving its natural wonders and historical significance for generations to come. As for me, my bond with the forest grew stronger. I built a research center at the forest's edge, dedicated to studying and conserving its wonders. The whispers of the forest, once a source of mystery and fear, became a comforting presence, a reminder of the timeless bond between man and nature. Asylum echoes. In the heart of a small town named Darrington stood the remnants of the old Red Brook Asylum. Built in the late 1800s, it bore witness to decades of mental health treatments, some of which were cruel and barbaric by today's standards. Over time, stories of patient mistreatments, ghostly apparitions, and mournful wails emerging from its dilapidated structure became intertwined with the town's folklore. I, James Whitaker, a history enthusiast and paranormal investigator, had always been intrigued by Red Brook's history and mysteries. Upon receiving permission from the town council, I decided to spend a week inside the asylum, documenting its history and, if lucky, capturing any paranormal activity. My first day was largely historical exploration. I roamed the long, decaying hallways, stepping into rooms that once housed patients. Their walls were etched with scribbles, perhaps the desperate pleas or ramblings of its former occupants. Some rooms still had rusty chains and restraining devices, a haunting reminder of the inhumane treatments administered. While setting up my equipment in the central hall, a sudden cold breeze swept through. A soft whisper, almost like a plea, echoed, "Help." I glanced around, trying to trace its source, but found nothing. That night, as I lay in my makeshift camp in the main hall, the sounds began. Faint whispers, footsteps, and the distant sound of sobbing echoed through the building. My recording devices picked up electromagnetic fluctuations, suggesting possible spectral activity. This was precisely the kind of evidence I had hoped for. Determined to unravel the mysteries of Red Brook, I ventured into the basement the next day. It was rumored to be the place where the most volatile patients were kept, and where the most extreme treatments were administered. The air grew colder as I descended the creaking steps. The basement was a maze of narrow corridors and cells, more like a prison than a place of healing. In the center, I found a room with an old electric chair, presumably used for electroshock therapy. Nearby lay a stack of patient files, yellowed with age but still legible. Flipping through, I came across a file for a woman named Eliza Montgomery. The notes described her as a young woman admitted for hysteria, following the tragic deaths of her children in a house fire. The treatments listed were harrowing. I realized her voice was the one I had heard pleading the previous day. That evening, as dusk enveloped Red Brook, I decided to conduct a séance to communicate with Eliza. Lighting candles and setting up a circle of protection, I began my invocation. The atmosphere grew dense, and a cold wind circled the room, a voice fragile yet clear. She revealed she was wrongly institutionalized, framed for the arson, that killed her children, a crime orchestrated by a rival suitor when she rejected his advances. She pleaded for justice, her spirit trapped in the tormenting walls of Redbrook until her name was cleared. My mission became clear. I needed to exonerate Eliza and bring her justice. Diving into the town's historical records, I searched for any information about the fire and the rival suitor. After days of research, I found a diary entry from a local resident at the time, detailing a confession on his deathbed. It was the rival suitor, filled with guilt and remorse, admitting to setting the fire in a fit of rage and jealousy. With this evidence, I approached the town council. They were skeptical at first, but the diary, coupled with my recordings from Redbrook, was undeniable. Darrington decided to hold a ceremonial retrial for Eliza, posthumously exonerating her of all charges. The evening after the retrial, I returned to Redbrook for one final night. The atmosphere felt lighter. The oppressive sorrow that once permeated its walls had lifted. At midnight, Eliza's apparition appeared before me, her face no longer marred by anguish but glowing with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice echoing through the hallways. As dawn broke, the apparition of a woman could be seen from the asylum windows, holding the hands of two children, walking away into the morning mist, finally free. Over time, Redbrook became a historical landmark. Instead of being a place of fear, it became a symbol of justice and redemption, a testament to the town's commitment, to righting the wrongs of its past. The once haunting whispers turned into tales of hope, with Elijah's spirit watching over, ensuring no soul ever suffered as she did. Frozen Expedition. In 1921, as tales of undiscovered territories captured imaginations worldwide, I, Dr. Lawrence Harding, led an ambitious expedition to Antarctica, hoping to chart unexplored lands. Our team comprised seasoned explorers, including Amelia, our cartographer, and Charles, a biologist keen on studying Antarctic fauna. Our ship, the Ulysses, docked at a previously identified base camp. As we journeyed inward, the white expanse, punctuated only by the outlines of distant mountain ranges, was both awe-inspiring and daunting. After a week, Amelia identified unusual inconsistencies in her map readings. There seemed to be a valley not documented in any records. Intrigued, we altered our route. As we approached, the atmosphere grew colder, and a dense fog settled. In the valley's center, to our astonishment, stood a colossal structure made of ice, resembling an ancient temple. The entrance bore carvings unfamiliar to any civilization we knew of. Inside, hallways extended in all directions. One passage led to a grand chamber with an altar in the center, atop which rested an ornate box made of an otherworldly metal. Charles, driven by curiosity, opened it, revealing a crystal emitting an eerie blue glow. Suddenly, the temperature dropped drastically. From the shadows, figures emerged, humanoid but made entirely of ice, their eyes glowing with the same blue hue as the crystal. Panic ensued as we realized we weren't alone and might have awakened something ancient. Trapped within the icy confines of the temple, our team frantically searched for an exit. The ice figures moved with surprising speed, their cold touch causing an immediate numbing sensation. I managed to pull Charles and Amelia into a side chamber, barricading the door with our equipment. With the crystal's removal, it seemed we had disturbed the guardians of this ancient place. Desperate for answers, Amelia closely examined the box, finding inscriptions similar to those on the temple's entrance. They spoke of an ancient civilization, older than humanity, that thrived in Antarctica's warm climate before the Ice Age. The crystal, their power source, was sealed to prevent its misuse. Realizing its importance, Charles hypothesized that returning the crystal might appease the Guardians, but the path to the altar was now swarming with them. Using our lanterns, we crafted a diversion, setting them alight at the chamber's opposite end. As the Guardians flocked to the fire's heat, we made a break for the altar. Placing the crystal back, a blinding light filled the room, and the temperature began to rise. When our vision cleared, the Ice Guardians had retreated into the walls, becoming indistinguishable from the surrounding ice. The temple, once cold and foreboding, now pulsed with a warm energy. With the Guardians pacified and the temple stabilized, our exploration resumed. Amelia's translations reveal the temple as a sanctuary of knowledge. Its chambers contained records of the ancient civilization's history, culture, and technology. Charles discovered that the temple had been preserving flora and fauna specimens, some extinct, in a state of suspended animation. The potential scientific revelations were enormous. However, the crystal's removal had consequences. The surrounding ice had started melting rapidly, threatening to submerge the temple. We had to make a choice: stay and document as much as possible, risking our lives, or leave with the little information we had gathered. Choosing safety, we hurriedly made our way to the Ulysses. As we sailed away, we watched the majestic temple sink slowly beneath the water, its secrets lost once again. Returning home, our tale was met with skepticism. Many dismissed our accounts as fabrications, despite the artifacts and sketches we presented. The rapid melting had altered the landscape, making it nearly impossible for subsequent expeditions to verify our claims. Yet, the three of us knew the truth. Our encounter with the ancient civilization of Antarctica became a bond, unspoken but deeply felt. Years later, as I pen down our story, the world remains largely oblivious to the wonders and mysteries that lie hidden beneath the ice. But in hushed circles and dimly lit rooms, our tale lives on, a testament to the endless possibilities that our world holds, waiting for those daring enough to seek them out.